Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Talking Disney Classics podcast. And this is the show where we like to talk about the Disney canon. And we love having guests on to share their rankings. And that's what we have today. It's very fun. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner. Stanford's here.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good. And today we have returning guest, a friend of mine, former co-host with me of the Hidden Gems podcast. And we have Ryan Cam on to share his favorite Disney films. And thank you so much, Ryan, for coming on.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
it is such a pleasure to be on, Rachel. It's well, I'm seeing you in the video, but the viewers or listeners will not. But it's so good to see you again, Stanford. It's a pleasure. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, we're so glad that you got to. How have you been? What you been up to? Keeping yourself busy?
Yeah, plenty busy, quite a bit. In life stuff, I celebrated a year at my current job, which is the best year of I guess my professional life, if you want to call it that. I have no complaints whatsoever. YouTube side of things, channel's doing great. I've got the Small Talk podcast going, the Smallville rewatch podcast I do every Tuesday with Jacob Collins from the YouTube channel 3D Movie Cinema and Matt Wyatt from his channel. They're super fans. I'm watching it for the first time. So
Okay.
I'm reacting to the show for the first time, and they have to shut up in order to not spoil it for me. We're watching
They
it
keep spoiler free.
Yeah.
because we're watching it 3 episodes at a time.
Okay.
So
Oh, wow.
because there's 10 seasons of that show.
It's
and
a
in
lot.
order to finish the show while all of us are still alive, we gotta move it. But I don't know when this airs, but we are wrapping up season 1. My reaction to the final episode of season 1 will be a live stream over on my channel, so there will be that.
Oh, cool.
I've got the Road to Saw X still going on. That has been surprisingly successful. I didn't see that one coming. I got Scary Mania coming. I got my Christmas series in the works. I got a bit of a Scorsese celebration planned for November. It's crazy, but it's so much fun all at the same time. And I'm running my first half marathon in November. So yeah,
Wow.
a lot of fingers and a lot of pies and all that.
Yeah.
That is so great.
Yeah. Did you ever watch Smallville, Stanford?
I watched some episodes. I didn't watch it faithfully, but every episode I watched I liked,
Yeah,
I thought
same.
it's a good show. And there are 10 seasons, and that's kind of hard to believe. It's like that show ran for a while.
Yeah.
Those quality does the writing, I mean, does it all still stay good through the 10 seasons? I guess we'll find out through Ryan's journey here. But
yeah, what have you thought of the first season?
I have really enjoyed it. I think there may have been 1 or 2 episodes that I straight up didn't like, but the rest of them were good to great. And it really, the CW gets crapped on a lot. It was the WB back then. The CW gets a lot of undue flack, especially for Smallville. Like season 1, just from what I've seen, Tom Welling is awesome as the man who would be Superman. So is Michael Rosenbaum as Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
John Schneider as Jonathan Kent, and just like Allison Mack and Kristen Kroik, and it's a really well acted show, and it's a surprisingly compelling show because we all know how the story ends.
Yeah.
Clark Kent becomes Superman, Lex Luthor becomes Lex Luthor, and the two eventually become, enemies with the whole we're destined to do this forever sort of energy. So we know how the story ends. But every week I also I just don't know what's going to happen, which is not something I anticipated. But
yeah,
again, it kind of raises my eyebrow with the whole thing of people saying like the CW is just nothing but crap. And I'm like, you sure about that? I mean, I'm sure it's got some bad shows on there. I haven't seen them, but what I've seen from the WB as it was back then, late 2001, early 2002, I've enjoyed that more than most of the superhero things this past year. And I don't know how hot of a take that's going to be, but that's my story and I'm sticking.
I'd probably say that too. I mean, and I haven't watched all of it, but yeah, it has been a bit of a a rough year for superhero movies, but with the exception of Spider-Verse, of course. But
Yeah.
and TMT, I love that.
Mhm.
Animation is saving us.
They are
But
carrying the weight, Atlas
yeah.
style.
But
Yes.
speaking of animation, let's talk about Disney. This is very exciting. So, what is your kind of history with Disney? Did you grow up going to the park? I know you're pretty close, right?
I
Uh,
live in Port Orange, Florida, which is
mm-hmm,
about an hour from Disney World in
mm-hmm,
Orlando. So went quite a bit with my cousin and her family, my dad's aunt, whenever they would visit from Colorado.
mm-hmm.
And so I would go quite a bit. Wasn't really connected to the movies so much per se as I was connected to Disney Channel, like the High
Oh,
School
okay.
Musical movies. I
Mm-hmm,
watched the first High School Musical when it premiered in
mm-hmm.
2006 because
Okay.
I was a
Decom.
I was a theater kid in 2006, and that's just what you did back
Yeah.
then.
Oh
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
mm-hmm,
And from that moment on, I was a Disney Channel fan for like a few solid years, like Sweet Life,
mm-hmm,
Zack and Cody, and Phil of the Future, and Kim Possible. Just love those shows. And
mm-hmm,
then as my movie knowledge started to grow, I started to reevaluate some of the classics that I had never seen or I had just missed.
mm-hmm,
And, you know, I don't think my list is going to be like the ones you immediately go, yeah, that's a bona fide classic. This is very much
mm-hmm.
my list.
Sure.
So I
Hey,
want
that's
you
what
all.
it's all about.
Yeah. That's what
This
we
is
like.
this is
Yeah.
not the list. This is my list.
Yeah.
Sure. That's what we like. What to you makes for a great Disney animated film?
Ah, well, I that's kind of tricky because Disney has been so good in the past with telling these great stories, and looking at my list, I seem to have done a good job covering all eras from the very
Mm-hmm.
beginning up to just about the present. So I feel like they've kind of evolved as they've evolved with the times from where they started with Pinocchio, Snow White, Fantasia, all the way up to the middle period, the dark times, then the Renaissance, and then post-Renaissance and where we are now. So the fact that they have been able to tell great stories throughout 70, 80, 90 years is it's just impressive to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's never been a moment where it's like Disney was making forgettable movies. There's always at least some discussion to be had, at least within the main animated canon,
Mm-hmm.
as from what I've seen.
Yeah. What would you say Stanford makes for a great Disney animated film?
So I think three things. One is artistic excellence, which I
Mm-hmm.
think typically happens in most every one of their films, even when the story isn't very good. I think that the artistry is typically outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Then a story that's got some real uh, emotion to it, whether that's adventure or fun or whimsy or a little drama or whatever.
Yeah.
And then typically some good music, whether there's is background. I mean, just the score or songs.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think those often for me are like three real big components of a quality Disney
Mm-hmm.
film.
Yeah. I'd agree. I think those are the emotion, the quality of the animation, and usually the quality of the storytelling. They have their misses like anybody else, and the family
Yeah,
storytelling
yeah,
usually
that's a
for
good
most of
point,
them.
right? Yeah, for most of
That's
them.
something that you can enjoy with your entire family,
Yeah, yeah,
which I appreciate.
same.
What was there anything, Ryan, as you were making your list that you particularly? I know you kind of talked about every era, and that it was just some of your favorites. Was there anything else that you used to kind of come up with your list?
I went through the entire canon. The article you sent me was very
Hmm.
good. Thank you for your help with that. And
Yeah.
I actually had I had a couple of ones that were like on the borderline. Like if I was making it to 15, they would definitely
Mhm.
be on there. But I made my list with the balance of how well they're regarded by most people and how much I love them.
Mhm.
So it is a delicate balance, but I believe I struck that.
Very good.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a patron. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
Well, let's dive in. Let's hear your number 10.
So my number 10 is the original Fantasia. And this is actually relatively fresh in the head because I watched this for the first time in a very long time, a few weeks ago. Because for trivia league purposes, I'm slowly making my way through the Disney animated canon to refresh my memory on ones that I have seen but haven't seen for a while or just straight up haven't seen. I remember watching Fantasia maybe once, and I can't remember what context it was. So rewatching it, I was itching to, and I'm so glad I did, because really, there's no real solid plot to the movie. It's really just 3 or 4 stories set to classical music. I can get why someone wouldn't get on board with it, but I got on board with it so much. The animation still is just tremendous to this day. The Night on Bald Mountain, wow, that is like goosebumps, like even to this day. And then following that up, super dark stuff with the Ave Maria. It's a beautiful transition, and it just covers like it's so beautiful how you go from heart of darkness to just the light of day in just over the course of like 15-20 minutes. It's really beautiful, and kind of makes me want to like see more like Fantasia type movies nowadays, but I don't think those would really fly super well. So I love this movie for a lot of reasons, but it kind of feels like an enigma. You can never truly make it again. And so it feels like not only just an enigma, but also kind of a rarity, if you will. And I know they made a sequel, which I have not seen in a very long time. I've heard mixed things, but the original Fantasia, that's the enigma.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a cool experience to sit down to something wholly unique and to watch a concert like you're going to the symphony. And I would love I feel like I've heard that they did Fantasia live here. Well, I would love to go and see that with the Utah Symphony. But I think it's just such a unique, cool experience to to go to a concert with this incredible animation to come to me. I agree. I love Fantasia. I have it at 5 on my ranking, and I think The Sorcerer's Apprentice is really special too. I love that short and getting to see Mickey and everything.
Yeah, now I have the proper context of what Nick Cage and Jay Baruchel were trying to do at the Sorcerer's
Right.
Apprentice.
Yeah. What do you think about Fantasia, Stanford?
Oh, I love it so much. You know, my top 20 ranking, they're all like almost tied. You know, we talked about. I have Fantasia at 19, but that is no, slam to it because it's amazing. I think Rachel and I, we kind of discovered we had somewhat similar experiences with Fantasia. Like I saw it on a school field trip when I was in elementary school. We were having like a music appreciation section or something, and we got to go see it in the theater. And our I had a really great teacher who prepped us for it. We listened to the pieces before, and they taught, and she talked to us about what we were gonna experience, whatnot. Plus, we got to go to the movie theater. It was at this great movie palace, the Villa in Salt Lake City, which sadly is no longer, but such happy memories there. And it made an impact. And every time I see it, I'm with you, Ryan. I get goosebumps. And I mean, at multiple places, actually. I think because of the sheer beauty of the music and of the animation. I just love the whole thing.
Yeah, they did a re-release in 1990, and I'm sure that's when I saw it. So I would have been 9, and
Okay.
I vividly remember going to the Villa and seeing it and really enjoying it, because as we talked about before, like as a kid, I really valued anything that I thought was grown up or adult, or I wanted to be seen as mature. And so something like Fantasia would have been right up my alley. Plus I always have loved animation my whole life. So yeah, it's, if you ever do get a chance, Ryan, to see it in a theater, it's a really cool experience. Yeah. But good first pick. So what do you have at number 9?
So for my number 9, and actually one more note before we do move on. I love the interludes of the conductor introducing all the pieces. That may not be for everyone, but I love it. It's kind of like how in the original Frankenstein, how you had the dude in the tuxedo say good evening. This movie this movie may shock you.
Exactly.
Basically gives you a warning, like, don't watch this movie. And I'm like, the original Frankenstein is super tame by today's standards, but back in 31, ooh.
Shocking.
So, yeah. It's true. Yeah.
But my number 9, this is another recent one, but it's a movie that I've grown appreciation because of, not exactly for what it is, but what some other guy tried to do with it. Alice in Wonderland, the OG. Yeah. Again, this is another one kind of like Fantasia, where the plot is not necessarily like super deep. It's basically about Alice falling into Wonderland and learning that some madness in small doses is good, but you can't have madness all the time. So it's relatively simple in that. What makes it into my top 10, the animation. It's so jaw-droppingly beautiful. I saw a Letterboxd review of this movie saying, this was Walt Disney basically saying to all the editors, go to town, or the animators, go to town. And just, there's so many memorable bits about this. The Cheshire Cat, the Mad Hatter, the Tea Party, the White Rabbit, the Queen of Hearts, who I unironically love. She is one of my favorite Disney villains of all time. Just her frequent swings and so the voice and
off with their head.
Exactly. So it grows even more for me in my love, because we got those 2 really bad Alice in Wonderland movies in the 2010s from Tim Burton. And I don't hate Tim Burton, but those movies are just awful, and you cannot convince me otherwise.
I certainly don't enjoy them, so I'm with you there.
We're not. No need to.
Why they felt a need to turn this simple nonsense story, as you said, into these like hero narratives where there's like war and battles, and why we needed to know the backstory about the Red Queen's head. Like, what?
It all started over what looked like a Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen blood feuds started over less.
Right.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was bad. Yeah, I love especially the Mary Blair really geometric style to the animation in this. And it's a lot of fun. I have it at 26. It's one of those ones I have had it higher in my ranking, depending on, I've ranked the canon a couple different times, and I've had it higher sometimes. It's one of those movies that I just have to be in the right mood for. And if I'm in the right mood for it, I always appreciate it, but I really, really enjoy it. But yeah, I sometimes feel a little bit bad for Walt Disney, because anytime that he really tried to do anything artistically ambitious, it usually bombed. But then when he would do something more conventional, like your Cinderellas and your Snow Whites and your things like that, which are really great, your Dumbos, those all did very, very well.
You know, it seems like Walt Disney had two sides to him: the root we really need to make money side and the artistic side.
Mhm.
You really
Well,
need to
yeah.
stretch out that one side more than the other for feasible
Because
reasons.
Alice in Wonderland didn't really catch on until it became a kind of a hippie thing later on, and and after it was released.
Jefferson Starship.
Yeah. I guess it was like played at college campuses, stuff like that, which is interesting.
It's kind of like
But
2001, where people saw it as like LSD, kind of, or like they
Mhm.
saw it when they
Yeah.
were on LSD.
What do you think about this one, Stanford?
You know, I have it ranked a bit lower, but I really appreciate what you're saying about it, because I think I just don't know of a film that's just more visually arresting or interesting. You know,
Yeah.
as you're talking about the shapes, Rachel, I think the colors are
Mhm.
wonderful.
Yeah.
They used to, you know, and I love the character designs, and uh, I think it's just delightful to look at.
Yeah.
The story or kind of lack thereof is what causes me to take it down a bit, but still, it's tremendous, you know. And I love the Alice in Wonderland area that they have in Fantasyland at Disneyland.
Mhm.
And I think a big part of that is because they're really true to what the animated film looks like.
Yeah.
And it's just like you're going through a 3D version of it. And,
Mhm.
you know, I love it.
Yeah, and they have a really fun ride at Disneyland that they don't have in Disney World for Alice in Wonderland, which is
Yeah, they
fun.
have a wonderful
Yeah.
dark ride that's just
Mhm.
A plus.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. What do you have next?
So for my number 8, kind of sticking in the OG land, but it's one of the only ones from like early Disney that I have on here. It's Pinocchio, like the original.
Mhm.
And this was another one where saw the terrible Zemeckis one.
Oh,
I know,
so
Stan.
bad.
I'm sorry.
No, I
It's
think we all saw
painful.
it. We're all feeling the pain of watching
out
it.
of protest, I went back and rewatched it. I'm like, yep,
Oh,
this is far
no.
superior. It didn't even
Yeah,
take me 5 minutes. 5
no
minutes.
question.
It's funny. It's kind of random, but there's this mortuary / cemetery that's doing these like movies on the lawn thing around here.
A
And
mortuary, you
I
say.
know, but they're advertising Pinocchio, and I don't know if it's the new one or the old one. And I'm like, if it's the old one, I totally would go. If it's
Yeah,
the new one, absolutely
that's
not. And I
could
messaged
not be
them
a
and they
harder
haven't
pass.
responded. So I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Show Night of the Living Dead there, you cowards. I mean, it literally starts in a graveyard. Come on.
Yeah. Or you'd think like Frankenweenie would be a good one.
Oh, that's a good one
That
too.
would be
Yeah,
Yeah,
good for
Corpse Bride.
that's a good one.
But I'm like, that is a risky move there.
That's for sure. But yeah, the original Pinocchio, it's so dark even by today's standards. I mean, what Pinocchio goes through, I mean, just whoa. Like, it's all through the context of essentially he wants to become a real boy. He basically becomes that real boy and makes all the mistakes that a real boy would make. He is gullible, he gets coerced easily, and there's no easy answers. There's not a, oh, well, he's out of that situation. It's not convenient. He has to learn his lessons, and he more than learns his lessons
Yeah.
by a lot. I mean, there's like a scene I can't remember. I'm sure you all can help me, where he gets almost turned into a donkey and he's like gets sent to an island. I'm just sitting there like,
Well, he's on the island, so he's at Pleasure Island. And yeah, that was another thing about this remake where they have him drinking root beer. You know, and I'm like, what's the difference between what these kids are doing than what any kid is doing at Disneyland? Like, what?
and
They're
then
like eating a lot of candy and root beer and like playing with things.
and then the whole whale scene, it just freaked me out. Like
Yeah.
in
Oh
the
yeah.
Oh,
original.
seriously.
Like
Yeah,
they're inside the dang whale in the remake, and I was like, I just could not be bothered. Here it is like the whale just crashes through the water. I'm like, Pinocchio, get out of there. Get out of there.
That, and then when
So
Pinocchio
true.
is lying face down in the water,
Oh,
Oh
devastating.
man.
it's like the trauma.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one I have to admit that the terrible version made me think even more highly on it and watching it again, and I have it at 25 only because I didn't love it as a kid. It was a little too scary for me, but it's one I have definitely grown to appreciate a lot more as an adult. Just how bold it was, and the animation is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. What do you think about this one, Stanford?
I have Pinocchio at 22 for the same reason, Ray, just childhood trauma, you know. But I think it's one of the finest, if not the finest, at, you know, has the finest animation
Yeah.
of any Disney film. I really am in awe of the artistry every time I watch it. I hope in the, you know, in the afterlife, if there's a chance to talk to, you know, some of the 9 old men or some of the people who animators who worked on that film, I wonder how they did it. How did they do those underwater scenes?
Yeah, unbelievable.
With solely with hand drawn work and with the multiplane camera. I don't know how they did it. And
there were no computers back then, so it was all done by hand.
Done by hand.
Amazing.
And it's you know, I know, Rachel, we're careful about this word. I really do think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I
agree.
And even though it scared the crap out of me, excuse my French, as a child, it's still it's a remarkable film. Great pick, Ryan.
I don't know if I've ever asked you this, Stanford, but what did you think of the Del Toro one?
I thought it was very good.
Yeah.
I thought it was very well done, very interesting. I thought his story interpretation was interesting, and I loved the animation and the artistry of it. I liked it.
Yeah,
I thought it was very good.
Yeah, me too. I thought that the war section lasted a little too long.
It was a little long.
But I really did admire it greatly.
Yeah. Not perfect film, but excellent and deserving of all the accolades I think it got.
Yeah. All right. What is your number 7, Ryan?
So my number 7, we're jumping way up to the recent past, or probably the most recent one on my list so far. And I don't know how well this is going to fly over, but I am going with Moana as my number 7.
Oh, we welcome it with open arms.
Cool. Well, I remember when this movie came out really vividly. I was working in my local movie theater at the time. It was October or November of 2016 when it dropped. And when I was working there, I don't know if they still do it, but when the bigger releases would come out, like say Moana or something like big like that, MCU, something like that, the day it would be downloaded into the servers at the theater would be Wednesday night, like after we closed, because the first showings would be Thursday around 7:15 Eastern time in the evening. And so starting that night with starting that one with Moana, the theater manager was like, hey, we're gonna have a thing just for the employees. If you all want to watch Moana first, we'll get clean super early. We'll get in there by like 10:30 and we watch it in the RPX. And everyone was like, yeah, so cool. Sure.
Yes, and please.
We all saved the popcorn that was left over from the day, and we all took it in, and we all watched, like we all were some of the first in the Port Orange area to probably see Moana, so we beat a lot of other people to it. So I do have a lot of positive memories regarding to that. However, it's still a really good movie with a really big heart. It's really funny at times. I thought that the little chicken, I can't remember his name, it's like hey, voiced by Alan Tudyk. I thought it was like, this is going to be annoying, but no, I actually did enjoy him.
Yeah.
I thought Moana, voiced by Auli'i Cravalho, I think I got that right.
Yeah.
I thought she was fantastic. I love The Rock from being a big wrestling fan, of course, but he does a more than admirable job here. And like his singing is not the best, but he more than holds his own. The song that he does, the "You're Welcome" song, is just infectious.
Yeah, it's like an earworm. You get that in your head.
I hum it to myself quite a bit. It's a really good song, and it's just a really good story with just the animation is just gorgeous. Like I can't remember the fire demon's name, but when she pops out of the thing, I'm just like, whoa, that's gonna give kids some nightmare fuel right there.
Yeah.
Scary.
It's crazy to think about. It's easily, I think, the best of the mainline Disney animated canon we've got in a very long time, and not much has come close.
Yeah, I have it at 11, so I have it very high in my last ranking. I really do love it, and what a voice! I mean, just the fact that they just found her through auditioning in Hawaii, I think is such a find. She had just beautiful singer, and a beautiful animation. Yeah. Where do you have Moana, Stanford?
So I have Moana at 25. Again, it was so hard to choose because I really love Moana.
Yeah.
I just think it's a fantastic film. Just again for all the reasons you've both so eloquently stated, and also for me, it's kind of there's a tender spot in it. It's the last movie that Ron Clements and John Musker, directed to Disney. And those two are such, I've got such respect for their work, and they did such a wonderful job. And it was fun, it was fun to hear. I saw some interviews and stuff back, during 2016 when they were promoting the film, and so many animators wanted to work on it just for the chance to work with Ron and John, and that was so wonderful. I think that there was just something extra special about it. For that reason, and then again, not to mention just the beautiful artistry and the wonderful songs, and what a great film. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Jen Johans, host of the podcast Watch with Jen, which delivers a steady stream of great movie recommendations, thoughtful career deep dives, and first-rate conversations with film critics, authors, actors, journalists, filmmakers, and more. You can find Watch with Jen wherever you get your podcasts, or hear us first at our Patreon at patreon.com/filmintuition.
At 6.
So for my number 6, and this is going back to, I believe this was one of, if not the last ones ever released during Walt Disney's lifetime. It's the original The Jungle Book, and this is probably not one as beloved as for others, but for me, it's just a movie that I smile every time I think about it. It's one of those movies that is like, it hits me right where I live, because when I was younger, I did a performance of The Jungle Book. I was Baloo, and I had to watch it quite a bit in preparation for it. So maybe I just know it inside out. But it's another story that's full of heart. It's got great songs. I mean, look for the bare necessities. That's song 2, and then the King Louie song is just so good. The animation is just so fast, but it's never like dizzyingly fast. It's always focused on one thing, and then the characters are so memorable. You got Baloo, you got Bagheera, you got Mowgli, you got Shere Khan, who just still gives me the creeps to this day. You got King Louie, you got, who's the snake? Kaa the snake. Who played a part in my fear of snakes, not gonna lie. the hypnotizing power.
The hypnotizing snakes. Giant, python or whatever.
And how kind of silly the character is because of like his sinuses. I'm just like, I'm like, you're giving a massive cobra who also like needs to take a Claritin every once in a while.
Well, Jungle
Interesting.
Book was my dad's favorite, is my dad's favorite. And so it's one we watched a lot. So I definitely have a lot of nostalgia for it. And it's kind of a funny memory, but I went on a trip to Europe when I was in high school with my dad and my sister, and at this cafe in France, they had this live band there, and they sang "I Want to Be Like You" from Jungle Book, and they had CDs that you could buy from the band with the song on it. And we bought it, and then for years and years and years later, that was almost more of what I heard of that song was this French band
Was
singing
it
it.
sung in
They
French
wouldn't-
or did they sing it in English, Rach?
in French. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I've got to hear this now.
Yeah.
I
I
know,
wonder if my
right?
dad still has it somewhere.
You gotta let us know, Rach.
Yeah, that would be fun. But it's I have it at 27. The first time I did a ranking was actually a lot higher. I don't know. I think maybe it's one of those ones I have to be in the mood for, but I do really love it. It's super fun. Yeah.
I have it at number 2. It's just one of my all-time favorites. It's a favorite of the kid, and I love it just as much or even more as an adult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I also love the moment where the buzzards are saying that's what friends are for, and then Shere Khan cuts him off, and all he has to do is say boo, and all of the birds fly away.
That bitter end. Yeah. Yeah. All right. What's your number 5?
So for my number 5, going back to the recent timeline, I'm going with Tangled. And this is one of the other recent ones where I'm like, Disney has, like, they have not come close to this. And this is a movie that is really fun, really funny, beautiful animation, but it also can get pretty dark. Like I want to say it's Rapunzel's godmother, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Like the woman's name, I can't
You
remember
mean
her.
the
Mother Gothel?
Mother Gothel. Yeah, she
Yeah.
is so creepy.
Yeah,
Like,
she really
just-
is.
He is a good villain. Ooh.
To use motherhood to manipulate and control was really brilliant.
Meth.
But Rapunzel has such a positive energy about her that
Yeah.
is just so infectious. Like the opening song where it's like in the same place I've always been, like that song, and just like the amount of stuff she does all day, like
Yeah.
and it always ends with baking, like always in the middle of it. And then
Yeah.
and the whole brush my hair.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that whole song is great. And then you get the I Have a Dream song, and then Flynn Rider, voiced by Zachary Levi, he initially dismisses it, but then they're all like, you have a dream, right? And they all like point the swords at him, and he's like,
Oh yeah.
sure I do. And the verses ended by surrounded by gigantic piles of money.
I don't like your dream.
Yeah.
Your dream sucks.
Yeah. It contains one of my favorite songs from a Disney movie. It's I've Seen the Light, or I Saw the Light.
Oh,
Yeah.
stars.
So good.
Such a gorgeous song. I go out of my way to listen to it once in a while because it's just
Spectacular.
it really is. And that combined with the lamps going into the air and they're out on the boat on the water, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah. That's the
I
most
feel
magical thing.
I feel like the movie kind of got buried because Frozen came out a few years after this. And no disrespect to Frozen. Frozen is very good. I'm not going to be that guy like Frozen sucks. No, Frozen is actually quite good, and Frozen 2 is just as good in my opinion. So I'm not trying to bury Frozen, but I just prefer Tangled a whole lot more. It resonated with me a whole lot.
Yeah.
Well, and I think even more than Frozen, I think it just sort of people were out of love with Disney. I was out of love with Disney. I hadn't even
No.
Yes, believe it or not. Yeah. And because I was very disappointed by Princess and the Frog at the time. And so I was and then the trailers were not great for Tangled. They made it look like a Shrek wannabe.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I
understand.
don't know. But then I took my sister and we went and I was blown away. I absolutely loved it. I have it at number 3. It's one of my favorites. I love it. I think it's Disney's first real romantic comedy. The banter that you get between Flynn and Rapunzel is just something that, with the exception of maybe Aladdin, is just something that you don't really get in most of the Disney rom-coms, Disney romances. So I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love the whole section where she's just dancing in the
Oh
square.
yeah, that's a good one.
You don't have that many scenes in Disney animation that are just pure dance. And I love that. I love that. And you have a high too, right, Stanford?
Oh yeah, I love Tangled. I have it number 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic for all the reasons you stated. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I think too, and I'm a broken record on this one, but I just feel like it's the first time that Disney really was able to make a Disney film using CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just felt like a Disney film through and through.
Yeah.
And they used the technology in such beautiful ways that I see the light section, just like Ryan, you were talking about. I mean, come on, that is so lovely. I just remember every time I see it, I just kind of my jaw drops, just because of the sheer beauty of both the music, but also just that animation is just unbelievably stunning.
Yeah.
One more note before we move on. Mother Gothel's death in this movie. Oh.
Yeah.
She just like melts away Thanos style. You just get her skeleton. I'm just like,
oh yeah,
whoa.
she just like that instant aging or whatever happens to her. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. All right. What's your number 4?
All right, so here we go. It's Brother Bear. Now, please don't kill me at once. This movie holds a lot of. This is kind of a two-parter. This is my Phil Collins love duology, because Phil Collins had a heavy hand in both of the scores for these movies. I saw this with my dad. Like, he took me to see this, and it was right place, right time, and I was the right age. So it holds a lot of weight for me. I think it's a beautiful story. The animation is, of course, gorgeous. The I'm on my way song that Phil Collins does, I think it's so good. And just the montage of Kenai and Coda getting closer as the song goes on, and how it picks up and they get onto the animal train at the very end, and it ends with Coda saying, "Yes, I'm on my way," as like the big crescendo of it. It's so good. And I wouldn't have pegged Joaquin Phoenix as a voice actor, but he actually does quite a good job. I will admit this movie does have flaws. The moose don't do anything for me. Like, when I'm just sitting there, I'm like, well, this is clearly the comedic relief of this, and it's not a relief at all. So I will give credit where I will say that the movie is flawed, but I have it high because is part of my childhood, and I have a lot of positive memories attached to it.
I love that. And I think that is one special thing about Disney animation, is that I think almost every single Disney film has somebody who has that experience with it. And it was their first one, and it was what they so they have that nostalgia. This one's definitely not a favorite of mine, but I appreciate that it made your list.
I know.
I have it at 57. Sorry. Coda's not for me, but I appreciate that it's on your list. I like unique lists. Where do you have it? Do you have it the same as me?
I have it at 57 too.
57, yeah. I thought so.
But I have such respect for you, Ryan. I appreciate your, just how well you articulate it, because I agree. I think we all have these films that are from our childhood that are really important to us. And again, I think Brother Bear has stunning animation. It's the story that falls apart for me. And I love Phil Collins. I'm a real sucker for Tarzan because of, I think, I think it's a great film, and partly because of the Phil Collins score, I think is so strong.
Yeah.
So anyway, I hear what you're saying, and yeah.
So speaking of that, why don't you give your number 3?
So, like I said, I kind of spoiled it with my Phil Collins love duology comment, but it is Tarzan.
Oh yeah,
And
okay.
this is another one. This is another one. I was a part of a musical theater thing of. I was not in the musical long, but I was a part of the cast for it. And afterwards, like after the show was over, we had a cast party at the guy who played Tarzan's house. His family invited all of us. It was a pool party. It was so great, and we ended up watching Tarzan, which, to be completely honest, I had never seen before being cast in a Tarzan musical. I know I'm weird like that,
Yeah, it's
but
all good.
I had never seen it cover to cover until that point, and I was blown away. It's one of those movies that it was at the very tail end of the Renaissance. It was 99. So
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
a couple of years after this, the wheels would fall off.
Yeah.
However, like this was still Disney just clicking on all cylinders. Like Phil Collins in the score, of course. The Tarzan, you got Jane, you got I cannot remember the villain's name right now because it's
Clayton.
late.
Yeah,
Clayton. Clayton, thank
That's
you.
right.
And he was just menacing, and his death, talk about Mother Gothel's death. I mean, I'm
Yeah, he's
like,
got like a Gaston death, that's like falling hundreds of feet.
It's
like I'm
intense.
15 years old. I'm watching this, and all I see is the silhouette, and I'm like, this is meant for kids, right?
Yeah.
That's disturbing.
But it's a beautiful story. I think I have the Tarzan VHS hidden somewhere in this
Oh,
shelf.
nice.
This shelf has gotten out of control since we last saw each other, Rach.
Yeah.
Things have, things have been kind of hidden. I've got an Amadeus VHS hidden in there somewhere. I got
Andy.
I I'm
so, but
gonna
yeah,
get to see a theater here in Utah, in Lehigh, is doing Amadeus this month,
wow.
and I cannot wait. I've never seen the play, so anyway, random
But
off
but
topic.
to put the period at the end of the sentence for my part of Tarzan, it just beautiful story, beautiful animation, really again tail end of the Renaissance, so I think that has it going against it, but it just I think I can personify it by this video I saw on Instagram, this reel where the caption is, "All right, Phil Collins, this is the music for Tarzan. It doesn't have to be that serious." And then it says Phil Collins, and it's the video with the "I Wanna Know" song and the guy playing the piano, and the piano's on fire. So that's how good the music
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I have
yeah.
this at 17. I really enjoy it. I love the deep canvas and the surfing through the trees. I think it's so beautiful, and I really like the dynamic between Tarzan and Jane. I think is a lot of fun. Their banter, kind of their back and forth, and strange the different worlds, two worlds. That whole montage I really love. Um, and yeah, so I think it's great. It's a great one. Where do you have that, Stanford?
I have it at 20. I love it.
Yeah.
Because again, the first 20 are kind of like all intertwined. This
Mhm.
one, but
Yeah.
I just think it's just supreme entertainment, just so expertly done. I love it when Disney tackles like a genre. And
Mhm.
I just feel like Tarzan movies are kind of like a genre, in their own way. Because there's
Right.
always seems like every couple of years there's another Tarzan movie, right? But
Mhm.
I just thought Disney nailed their version of
Yeah.
Tarzan. They made it so unique. I think with the Phil Collins songs and Phil singing,
Mhm.
and the animation is total knockout. And with the deep canvas and all that, great voice cast, great script. Anyway,
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
What do you have number 2?
So for my number 2, and again, this is another nostalgia choice, and this will spark debate, I'm sure, but it's Treasure Planet. And like I said, I was on for the Treasure Planet episode of this show. Rachel knows my love of Treasure Planet like the back of her hand. So I don't think there's much that I really can say. It's one of the first Disney movies I ever saw. The Treasure Planet VHS is hidden in there somewhere.
Excellent.
I have the DVD and the Blu-ray too. I'm not obsessed, I promise. But it just, like I said, I was the right age. It was the right time.
Yeah.
This mix of the CGI and the regular animation, for the most part, holds up. I will admit some of it has not aged the best, but the space scenes, I think, are great. I want to go to Montresor Spaceport one day just to see how rich that is. And it's very much a space play on the Treasure Island story with Long John Silver and Jim Hawkins. Like I understand what the reference they're going for is, but this movie has a heart as big as all outdoors. You got the grizzled pirate who's going in for one thing, but he didn't count on having his heart being taken over by a kindred spirit, if you will, in the form of Jim Hawkins. And Jim Hawkins is someone who needed direction and didn't expect it from the grizzled pirate. So in a way, they both kind of needed each other. They just didn't know it. And so I think that part of the story I thought was just excellent. Like I said, some of the animation doesn't really work, I will admit. Some of the comedy also doesn't super work all the time. Like Martin Short, I can take or leave as the robot. Ben, thank you. Like he's very much a plot point because his memory is gone, and then Jim's like conveniently found his mind and then reattaches it, and he's like, I can't believe I forget about this booby trap, and then sure enough, the booby trap happens. So that was very much a convenience, but this is just a movie that holds a very special place in my heart, like Brother Bear.
Yeah. Well, and it's another it was one that Clements and Musgrave wanted to make for so long. They fought for this space Treasure Planet. They got it. They did it. And I think the animation is really beautiful, and there are some really nice moments in it. I have it at 44. It's not super high, but there are things I admire about it, especially during that Renaissance time.
It had just come to an end by that point.
I mean, post-Renaissance time. That's what I meant to say. Post-Renaissance time is a bit of there's not much to hang your hat on during those years. But yeah. What do you think about Treasure Planet, Stanford?
So I have it at 40, but again, it's one of those where I think artistically it's a knockout.
Yeah.
I think these sailing ships in space, it's so weird, and I love it so much. And I love, the spaceport, as Ryan was talking about. I can't say I love all the character designs, but wow, I just think that there's a lot to like. I find the story. I think the story, again, it's lower for me because of the story, but they're really true to Treasure Island in so many ways, which I think is interesting. I watched a 1938 or something version of Treasure Island that was on Turner Classic Movies last month, but I think I'd seen it before. It's been a long time, but anyway, it's like, wow, Ron and John were really true to this story. But a lot of.
My favorite is still the Muppets.
Oh, Muppet Treasure Island. Yeah.
I love that with Tim Curry.
That one is very good. And this is one of those movies, being Treasure Planet, this is one of those movies that really made me fall in love with animation, because as a kid, I just could not fathom with just how beautiful it looks, just like in the wide shots, but then you get the character designs, which I know, Stanford, you said you're not a humongous fan of some of them, but I think I think a lot of them are really cool. Like Captain Arrow is just a rock monster.
Yeah, that he was a rock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you got Mr. Scroop, who still freaks me out, and I'm a 26-year-old man. I still
Yeah.
look at a picture of Mr. Scroop and I just have to be like,
Creepy.
yeah, with like the hands that are like lobster claws or something.
Yeah.
And Mr. Arrow's death freaks me out to this day.
That's really
He falls into the void, like
tragic.
a
Yeah.
black hole. I'm just in there like, Scroop just cut this man's line, and Mr. Arrow's still falling probably to this day.
Yeah, he's still falling. Yeah, falling forever. I'm with
It's
you.
true. That's true.
And you could just tell that these are pirates and that they don't even trust each other, with the whole with Silver being like, basically like, they're close knit in the sense that they want the treasure, but once they get the treasure, that's it. It's like Dunzo on the Union.
Mm-hmm.
You know, animator Glenn Keane worked on Long John Silver, you know, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, with some of the interviews I saw or read, that he was so interested in that it was such a hybrid character, you know, of both hand-drawn and CGI. And I thought it was very effective with that character. And I also really like the animation of Jim Hawkins. I thought he was a very sympathetic person. One of my favorite scenes is that montage of Jim growing up, or kind of reflecting on his past with that is it Johnny Resnick, or with the the Goo Goo Dolls guy,
John Rzeznik.
I just wish we got more songs. It wasn't just the one, you know.
It was the only one, really, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, there was another song at the end called "Always Know Where You Are" by I believe
was that also
BB Mac.
Oh yeah.
But that song is a banger too. Like I listen to both of those songs on the regular.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hear it. Well, you're number one.
Yes, number one.
Drum roll.
All right. So my number one might be ever so slightly basic because of its reputation, but I have had nothing but love and respect for it ever since I first saw it, and nothing that has happened has really changed all that much. The OG Lion King. And again, super basic take. It's my favorite mainline Disney canon movie, but I don't care. It's my number one. It's a work of art. That's the best I can describe it. It just, because I didn't see it in theaters. It came out in 94. I was born in 97. So it was just ever so slightly before my time. But I saw it on the 3D re-release. I believe it was in 2010 or 20. No. It was celebrating an anniversary, and they re-released it in 3D. I believe it was 2012.
Oh yeah. I remember seeing it in 3D, whatever year it was, Ryan. Yeah.
And so my dad and I went to see it because I had never seen it. And from the very moment that circle of life began with the sunrise, I was like, I don't know what this is, but I love it. And just from that moment, I was hooked. It's such a good story. It's such a deep, dark, but also mature story as well. It could have so gone into like melodrama, but they didn't do that. It's a dark story, but it's told in a very mature way. And it just, like I said, animation is beautiful. Hans Zimmer over-delivered with the score. Many memorable songs. Timon and Pumbaa. You see the rise of Simba from like top of the world to losing everything and having to climb his way back, literally in certain cases. And you just see like the whole scene where he meets Rafiki, and then he sees Mufasa in the clouds, and Mufasa's like, remember who you are.
That's my favorite part.
Oh, I love
you
that
promised
part
you'd
so
always
much.
be there, but you're not.
It gets me every time. And then Jeremy Irons' Scar, one of my favorite villain performances ever. Like, I haven't made a solid list, but I know Scar is up there.
Oh yeah,
undoubtedly. Just his whole thing of "Long live the king."
That's so chilling.
And like when you see little baby Simba see the herd of wildebeest and his eyes just go this big, it almost makes me cry, like legit. So yeah, this is just like, again, Lion King, saying Lion King is excellent is like saying water is wet. So I get that, but I mean, it's obvious.
Yeah. Well, I think it's totally over. No, just kidding. I have it at 8. I love it. I think it's great. I love the journey that Simba goes on, the that he forgives himself. He forgives his father for abandoning him. And he becomes the king by the end. And I know some people say, "Oh, it's just Hamlet," but I feel like it it moves me more than Hamlet. When I watch Hamlet, I'm not as touched, not as moved. Um, and I mean, I have to really nitpick. I don't love the intro to "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" The whole I can see what's happening, but they don't have a clue. I don't love that, but pretty much everything else I love. And I think it's funny, it's scary, it's sweet, it's got a great villain, it's got a great story, great characters. And I also just kind of love the backstory of it, that it was kind of the bad news bears of Disney animation at the time, the Florida people. They had the Alan Menkins and the real talented people. I mean, everybody was talented, but the top tier people working on Pocahontas, and then for it to be the one that was one of the most successful films ever made is just kind of cool too. Adds a layer.
I was gonna say, for the record, I prefer the Elton John "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" Like that song is beautiful. I like Elton John generally, but his version of "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" gets me right in the heart.
Yeah. I wish he'd do something more. He hasn't done a show for a long time. I would love to hear. I mean, I guess he's old. He probably just wants to retire, but I would love to hear something new.
Yeah.
But great pick. Great pick.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. All right. Well, you did it. You came and you shared your ranking, which is so much fun. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, we had a blast. It was fun to catch up. And let us know if you're listening what you think of Ryan's top 10. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And Ryan, where can people find you and all that content you were telling us about?
So they can find me on Facebook, X, is that what we're calling it now? I'm calling it Twitter until
it's like the old Prince, when it was the artist formerly known as Prince. It's the site formerly known as Twitter.
It's Twitter.
I refuse to call it X.
But Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd at RyanCam20. Then there's, of course, my YouTube channel. You can look it up by that handle as well. Small Talk Podcast, the Smallville Rewatch podcast, drops every Tuesday on the channel. The Road to Saw 10 will be continuing up to September 29th, which Saw 10 that drops. That's going to be one Saw review per Friday. Saw 6 should be up whenever this is up, so then it would be Saw the Final Chapter. Okay. So I believe in that ballpark, but that'll be on the channel as well. I've been kind of toning down recent releases just because I have so much to prepare for the remainder of the year.
Yeah.
So plus, I don't think at this point anything's going to top Oppenheimer for my favorite movie of the year. So I mean, I'll see some stuff, but I mean, when Dune Part 2 got canceled, I was like, what's even the point anymore?
Yeah.
But recent reviews have been toned down ever so slightly, but there's still a ton of content coming to the channel. So if you have not checked me out, please do.
Great. And Stanford, where can people find you?
Well, I'm really trying to quit Twitter, but I still hang out occasionally. I'm also on Threads, and both of them are at Stanford Clark. And I have a movie podcast and website that's moviespastandpresent.com.
And you can find us at Disney Talking on Twitter. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. That helps a lot as well. And we really appreciate it. And you can find a hashtag Animation Junkie shirts at the merch store. So take a look at that and we would be grateful. And then we also have the patron group, which is a lot of fun. And thanks again, Ryan. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.